there is one voice that has been with you since the day you were born. It speaks before every decision, after every failure, during every success, and in every moment of silence. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change the world around them, while completely ignoring the conversation happening within them. They search for confidence in achievements, peace in possessions, and happiness in the approval of others. Yet, the greatest battle has never been outside. It has always been within. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your inner dialogue. If your mind constantly reminds you of your weaknesses, your body will follow with hesitation. If your thoughts repeatedly tell you that you are not enough, your actions will quietly begin to prove that belief true. But what if you could interrupt that cycle? What if, for just 3 days, you deliberately changed the way you spoke to yourself? Not with empty affirmations or unrealistic promises, but with awareness, discipline, and truth. A Shaolin practitioner understands that every transformation begins long before the body moves. It begins in the mind. Every word you repeat becomes a seed. Every thought you entertain becomes a habit. Every habit eventually becomes your character. If you wish to become stronger, calmer, and more resilient, then you must first become the kind of person whose inner voice creates strength instead of fear. For the next few moments, allow yourself to observe your own mind without judgment. Listen carefully to the words you have been repeating every day. Then discover how changing that conversation for only 3 days can begin a transformation that lasts a lifetime. The first discipline is to become aware of the language you use when speaking to yourself. Most people never notice this conversation because it has become automatic. It runs quietly in the background like a program that has been operating for years. Every mistake is followed by criticism. Every challenge is met with doubt. Every setback becomes proof that they are not capable enough. They believe these thoughts are simply facts, when in reality they are habits. Habits can be changed, but only when they are first observed. Imagine someone following you every moment of your life, repeating every sentence you say to yourself. Would you feel encouraged by that person, or would you slowly lose confidence because of their constant criticism? Surprisingly, many people treat themselves in ways they would never treat another human being. They forgive strangers more quickly than they forgive themselves. They offer compassion to others while denying it to their own minds. This does not mean you should lie to yourself. It does not mean pretending every decision is perfect or every failure is a success. Real strength is built on honesty, not illusion. Honest self-respect means looking directly at your weaknesses without allowing them to define your identity. You can acknowledge a mistake without becoming the mistake. You can recognize an area that needs improvement without believing you are unworthy. For 3 days, practice changing one simple habit. Every time your mind says, "I cannot do this," pause immediately. Replace it with a statement that is both truthful and empowering. Say, "I am learning." Instead of saying, "I always fail," remind yourself, "I have failed before and I have also learned before." These are not motivational slogans. They are balanced observations. They keep your mind connected to reality instead of fear. Your brain listens carefully to repetition. Whatever you repeat becomes familiar. Whatever becomes familiar begins to feel true. This is why negative self-talk is so dangerous. It slowly reshapes your identity. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you are weak, eventually you stop questioning that belief. Your actions begin to reflect it. Opportunities are avoided. Risks are ignored. Growth becomes uncomfortable because your identity has already accepted limitation. Now imagine reversing that process. For 3 days, every morning before checking your phone, before speaking to anyone else, sit quietly for a few moments. Take a slow breath and say, "Today I choose patience over panic. I choose awareness over reaction." I choose progress over perfection. These words are not magic. Their power comes from directing your attention toward the qualities you wish to strengthen. Throughout the day, your mind will naturally return to old habits. This is expected. Years of conditioning cannot disappear in an instant. The goal is not perfection. The goal is awareness. Each time you notice yourself speaking harshly inside your mind, gently interrupt the pattern. Do not criticize yourself for having negative thoughts. Simply replace them with a healthier direction. Think of a gardener removing weeds. The gardener does not become angry every time another weed appears. Instead, the gardener patiently removes it and continues caring for the soil. Your mind is no different. Negative thoughts are not evidence that something is wrong with you. They are simply reminders that your mental garden requires consistent attention. Many people wait until they feel confident before they begin changing their lives. Yet confidence is rarely the starting point. Confidence is often the result of repeatedly keeping small promises to yourself. Every time you speak with kindness instead of cruelty, you strengthen trust within yourself. Every time you refuse to believe your worst thoughts, you weaken their influence. Every time you respond with patience instead of judgment, you create emotional stability. Observe how your body reacts to different words. When you silently repeat, "I am hopeless," your shoulders become heavier, your breathing becomes shallow, your energy decreases. But when you calmly say, "This is difficult, but I can continue," your posture changes, your breath becomes steadier. Your nervous system begins responding differently because your internal environment has changed. The greatest warriors are not those who never experience fear. They are those who refuse to let fear become the narrator of their lives. Likewise, the strongest minds are not free from negative thoughts. They simply refuse to obey every thought that appears. They understand that awareness creates freedom. A thought may enter the mind, but it does not deserve permanent residence. During these 3 days, notice how often you seek validation from others. Ask yourself whether you are speaking to yourself with the same respect you hope to receive from the world. If your inner voice is constantly hostile, external praise will never feel enough. But when your relationship with yourself becomes peaceful, approval from others becomes less necessary because your worth is no longer borrowed from outside opinions. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to practice this discipline. Waiting in traffic becomes a chance to choose patience instead of frustration. Making a mistake becomes a chance to choose learning instead of shame. Facing uncertainty becomes a chance to choose courage instead of imagination-driven fear. Ordinary moments become training sessions for extraordinary inner strength. The purpose of changing your self-talk is not to become someone different overnight. The purpose is to stop standing in the way of the person you are already capable of becoming. Every compassionate sentence weakens old conditioning. Every honest word of encouragement builds resilience. Every conscious thought creates a new direction for your mind. Little by little, the voice that once limited you begins to guide you with wisdom, patience, and unwavering self-respect. If someone you truly loved came to you feeling broken, discouraged, or afraid, would your first response be to criticize them? Would you remind them of every mistake they have ever made? Would you tell them they are incapable, weak, or destined to fail? Of course not. You would speak with patience. You would encourage them without denying reality. You would remind them of their strength, their potential, and their ability to rise again. Yet many people reserve this kindness for everyone except themselves. The relationship you have with yourself is the longest relationship you will ever experience. Every day, your mind is listening to the words you repeat. If those words are filled with judgment, shame, and constant criticism, your spirit becomes exhausted before the day has even begun. But when you begin speaking to yourself with the same wisdom, honesty, and compassion you would offer someone you deeply care about, your inner world slowly becomes a place of strength instead of conflict. Speaking kindly to yourself does not mean making excuses or avoiding responsibility. It means becoming a wise teacher rather than a harsh judge. A good teacher corrects mistakes without destroying confidence. They point out what needs improvement while reminding the student that growth is possible. They understand that fear may force temporary obedience, but encouragement builds lasting discipline. Imagine a child learning to walk. Every time they fall, they stand up again because the people around them encourage them. No loving parent expects perfection on the first attempt. They understand that falling is part of learning. Now ask yourself this: why do adults expect perfection from themselves? Why do we believe one failure defines our entire future? Somewhere along the journey, many people replaced curiosity with judgment. They stopped seeing mistakes as lessons and started seeing them as evidence that they were not enough. For the next 3 days, become aware of the advice you give yourself. Whenever something goes wrong, pause before reacting. Ask yourself one simple question. If someone I truly loved were standing in my place right now, what would I say to them? Then offer those same words to yourself. You may discover that the guidance you naturally give others is exactly what your own heart has been waiting to hear. When you miss a goal, do not say, "I am a failure." Instead, remind yourself, "This attempt did not succeed, but I can learn from it." When fear tells you not to begin, answer with calm confidence. You do not have to be perfect to take the first step. When your mind compares your journey to someone else's, gently redirect your attention by saying, "Their path is not my path. My responsibility is to become better than I was yesterday." This shift may seem small, but it changes everything. Your mind begins to associate challenges with growth rather than danger. Your nervous system becomes calmer because it no longer expects punishment every time you make a mistake. You stop wasting energy fighting yourself and begin using that energy to improve yourself. Many people believe that being hard on themselves creates success. They think constant self-criticism will make them stronger. In reality, endless criticism often creates hesitation, anxiety, and self-doubt. A person who is constantly attacked by their own thoughts becomes afraid to take risks because every mistake feels like proof of their unworthiness. But a person who treats themselves with respectful honesty develops resilience. They understand that failure is information, not identity. Think about the people who have positively influenced your life. Chances are they did not inspire you by humiliating you. They inspired you because they believed in your ability to grow. They challenged you while also reminding you of your potential. Become that voice for yourself. Let your inner dialogue become a source of direction instead of destruction. This practice also teaches humility. Speaking kindly to yourself is not about believing you are superior to others. It is about recognizing that every human being is imperfect and learning. Just as you would allow a loved one the space to grow, allow yourself that same space. Growth is not a straight line. There will be days of progress and days of setbacks. Both belong to the journey. Throughout these 3 days, create small moments of intentional self-conversation. In the morning, remind yourself, "Today, I will respond with patience instead of panic." Before beginning a difficult task, say, "I may not know everything, but I am capable of learning." At the end of the day, instead of focusing only on what went wrong, ask yourself, "What did I do well today? What lesson can I carry into tomorrow?" These simple questions train your mind to seek wisdom instead of self-condemnation. Over time, this way of speaking becomes natural. Your inner voice becomes calmer, wiser, and more supportive. You no longer depend entirely on praise from others because you have learned to guide yourself with integrity. You become someone who can face difficulty without collapsing under the weight of your own thoughts. The greatest transformation does not happen when the world finally believes in you. It begins when you become the kind of person who can stand alone in silence and still speak to yourself with respect, patience, truth, and unwavering compassion. Most people believe their greatest enemy is outside of them. Difficult people, painful circumstances, or unexpected failures. But in many cases, the real battle begins much earlier. It begins with a single unchecked thought. One negative idea enters the mind, and instead of observing it, we accept it as truth. That thought becomes a belief, the belief shapes our actions, and eventually our actions create a reality that appears to confirm the original thought. The mind is powerful, but it is also impressionable. It learns through repetition. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you are incapable, your mind begins searching for evidence to support that belief. You notice every mistake while ignoring every success. You become hesitant to take opportunities because your identity has already decided the outcome. This is how negative thought patterns quietly become self-fulfilling prophecies. A Shaolin practitioner understands that not every thought deserves attention. Thoughts appear just as clouds move across the sky. Some bring wisdom, while others are nothing more than old fears, habits, or emotional reactions. Your freedom begins the moment you realize that you are the observer of your thoughts, not their servant. For the next 3 days, practice catching negative thoughts the moment they appear. Do not fight them or become frustrated by them. Simply pause and ask yourself, is this thought helping me become the person I want to be? If the answer is no, choose not to feed it. Replace it with a thought rooted in truth, patience, and possibility. Every interruption weakens the old pattern. Every conscious choice strengthens a new one. Over time, your mind stops automatically following fear and begins naturally returning to clarity. Instead of reacting to every negative thought, you learn to observe it, release it, and redirect your attention toward what is within your control. The strongest mind is not the one that never experiences negativity. It is the one that refuses to let negativity decide its future. By interrupting destructive thought patterns before they take root, you create space for discipline, resilience, and inner peace to grow. Discipline is often misunderstood as forcing yourself to work harder, wake up earlier, or push through discomfort. While these actions are important, they are only the visible expression of something much deeper. True discipline begins long before your body takes action. It begins with the conversation you have with yourself. Every choice you make is influenced by the words you repeat in your mind. If your inner voice constantly negotiates with discomfort, makes excuses, or seeks the easiest path, your actions will follow. But when your self-talk becomes intentional, disciplined action becomes a natural result rather than a constant struggle. Most people wait until they feel motivated before they begin. They tell themselves, I'll start tomorrow. I'm not in the right mood, or I need more confidence first. These thoughts seem harmless, but repeated often enough, they become habits. The mind learns that every difficult task can be delayed. Every challenge becomes optional. Over time, the gap between what you want and what you actually do grows wider. Not because you lack ability, but because your inner dialogue has trained you to seek comfort over growth. A Shaolin monk understands that the mind must be trained with the same consistency as the body. Discipline is not built in dramatic moments. It is built through ordinary decisions repeated every day. The words you speak to yourself each morning become the foundation for those decisions. If you begin the day with complaints, resistance, or self-doubt, you carry that energy into every situation. But if you begin with calm intention, reminding yourself that your responsibility is to act regardless of emotion, You strengthen the part of your mind that values commitment over convenience. For the next 3 days, make your self-talk deliberate. Before you reach for your phone, before the noise of the world enters your mind, spend a few quiet moments speaking with purpose. Tell yourself, today I will do what needs to be done, even if I do not feel like doing it. Remind yourself, discomfort is temporary, but discipline creates freedom. These are not empty affirmations, they are commitments. They prepare your mind to respond with action instead of excuses. Throughout the day, notice the moments when your mind begins bargaining. It may say, skip today's practice